Maiku, this is my sister's record for you. Little Elizabeth put a hardcover collection in her hand. Maiko smiled and touched her head. About 7 or 8 years ago, your sisters also came to Fantasy Manor. It was a good memory. Help me say hello to them. Well, I will. This doll will be given to you as well. It is my heart's desire, and it still has my signature on it. Maiko happily took it. Thank you, Elizabeth. You will definitely become an excellent actor. Of course, Eric will help me and I will definitely become a big star. Godot and my buckle hugged each other. I didn't bring a gift. I can only wish you a happy day. Hurry up and end this nightmare. Hopefully, you can come there when the trial comes, and I hope to see you all come. It will give me courage. Of course, I'll definitely come to cheer you on. Eric started the car, and the two women pulled the door open and got in. Maiku, then let's go. See you another day. In the shadow of Maiku's waving hand, the car drove out of the dream manor. This trip was just a day of play, and I came and went in a hurry. There's no way. A lot of things are waiting to be dealt with, and two beauties, one big and one small, also have jobs. Godot's Happy Death Day is now in the post-reshoot stage, and the Russo brothers will hand over the first cut of the finished film the day before yesterday, and MGM's internal test screening is not bad. This design method of cyclic death in time and space is very fresh and gives people a bright feeling. In addition, the Russo brothers are very good at time and space montage, and everyone is satisfied with the overall quality of the film. However, it also raises some logical problems, and this kind of movie involving time is the most prone to logical bugs. After discussing the opinions, the Russo brothers could only summon the actors to quickly make up for some shots and strive to make up for the logical flaws, at least not too obvious. Then go through the review process, which is scheduled to be released at the end of August. A Quiet Place is not in a hurry to be released, but this is Elizabeth's first big screen role, which she cherishes very much. The little girl is small, but she wants to be the best she can be, and she must not lose Eric's people. Especially now that the crew has spread the rumor that she is the big boss and set the role, which has doubled the pressure on Elizabeth. Get Out of Desperate Town has also been completed and is now going through the review process. When Zirin and Ravornal are indeed good partners, as fast as ever, but also able to take care of quality. The film is scheduled to be released on August 1st, 28 days staggered by Happy Death Day. At least it will not compete with itself. At present, when Zirin plans to take a break for a while before starting work, while Ravenel is busy with the preparation of Saw 2. This time he will be one of the producers. MGM has given him a 7% share of the investment, and the relative script dividend has been eliminated. As for the entire July schedule, MGM simply gave up. Because Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean is coming, The Black Pearl is scheduled for July 9th. This is a special time because it does not follow the custom of being released on Friday, which is the first weekend, and July 9th is a Wednesday. Dare to play non-mainstream. It's not that you don't have confidence in yourself at all, and no one can beat you if you give up. It is to have absolute confidence in yourself, firmly believing that no one can beat you. What's more, this movie has a huge investment, and it is a huge production that Disney took 2 years to build, and there is also a Disneyland scenic spot as an endorsement. No one dares to underestimate this group of pirates, especially the ones that bring together Johnny Depp, Orlando Bloom, Keira Knightley, and other super popular handsome men and women, and young people like them very much. Eric naturally knows better how terrible pirates are and must avoid the Black Pearl. In addition to Pirates of the Caribbean, there is also a blockbuster in July, Pentium Age, starring Tobey Maguire. This is Tobey Maguire's first commercial blockbuster after the explosion of Spider-Man. With an investment of up to $90 million, it tells the story of horse racing in the 30s of the last century, and it is also highly anticipated. Scheduling Get Out of Desperate Town on August 1st is just right to avoid the first week of Pentium Age and avoid the impact of the Black Pearl. Then, Happy Death Day was released at the end of August, and Hold Your Breath was released at the end of September. In recent times, MGM's film schedule has been full of horror and thriller movies, and it has almost become an independent film company. In addition, the preparation of House of Cards is on the agenda, especially the soul of Kevin Spacey, who must be dealt with. After more than 2 hours, he returned to Los Angeles and sent little Elizabeth home first. Eric, Godot, come to my house for a while. Next time, I've got something to do, little one. Eric immediately refused. Just kidding. If Ashley and Mary meet Godot under the same roof, there will be a bit of a Mars hitting the Earth. It's okay. Ashley and Mary weren't at home, only my mom was. Elizabeth added. Godot was a little puzzled. Why did he emphasize that the two of them were not there? Really, I have something to do, Elizabeth, next time. Without waiting for Godot to speak, Eric kicked the accelerator and walked away. Sent Godot upstairs. He left without entering the house. Last night in Neverland, he had been juiced several times, and he was not hungry when he was full. MGM building, Eric's office. He had only been sitting down for less than 5 minutes when Chen Xing knocked on the door and Judy walked in with a stack of papers. He didn't have to read it. He knew that it must be all scripts. After finishing her job as a producer of Adele's Life, Judy returned to her job and once again took on the role of screening scripts. Judy, my good friend, you always bring me good luck and show me what good things you have found this time. Putting the script on the table, Judy said, we have carefully selected them, and these dozen or so are either huge topical or the stories are exciting enough, and they all have the potential to be big sellers. Then let me test you this time's vision. As he spoke, Eric took the top folder, and when he opened it, the first notebook gave him a punch, and it read The Passion of the Christ on it. Putting down the coffee in his hand, he glanced at Judy with a complicated face. You are really telling the truth. The Passion of the Christ. This is not only a huge topicality, it is simply a huge topicality. Seeing Judy holding a stack of folders. It was estimated that the two would talk for a while, and Chen Xing made another cup of coffee and sent it in. Thank you. Taking the coffee, Judy took a big sip. Religion is indeed very sensitive, but there are also many believers, more than 1 billion people in the world. Whether it's Catholicism, Orthodoxy, or Judaism, there will always be a part of so many people who go into the cinema, and as long as they go in, they contribute to our box office. Eric glared at her. Have you ever considered that MGM may be attacked by crazy believers, and you may encounter rocks or rotten eggs after work? And there's a solid satire on the Jews, and I can already predict that Mel Gibson is going to be out of luck. In the not-too-distant future, the superstar may be out for a while, and in short, this movie is a hot potato. Judy smiled. It's not our turn if it's not hot. Mel Gibson doesn't actually want to attract investment, and the filming of the movie is almost complete. Mel Gibson's own company invested $30 million, and he's asking for distribution now, but a lot of religious film companies shy away from it and don't dare to take it over. If he can't find a distribution company, the film will have to be smashed in his hands, and he will have to lose a lot of money. Eric tilted his head back and began to seriously recall the relevant information from The Passion of Christ. The popularity of the movie was very hyped back then. Even if he was not very old, he had seen it in magazines and newspapers, but he was not interested in religion, so he didn't watch it much. I just vaguely remember that the movie must have made a lot of money, and the actresses in it are quite well known, especially in Huaxia. That is Monica Bellucci, who is known as the Ballflower. A few years ago, a beautiful legend of Sicily made Bellucci, who has been in the industry for many years, finally popular. Since then, at the age of 36, she has become a sexy goddess in Italy, and she has become the dream lover of countless men. The shot of countless men lighting cigarettes for her was also made into a GIF and widely disseminated. Eric naturally fantasized about this woman, but now he is surrounded by warblers and swallows, and he has no special attitude towards a 39-year-old woman. What's more, Monica Bellucci now has a husband, unlike Theron, who only has a boyfriend. They are real marriages and protected by the law, and it is somewhat immoral to dig this kind of corner. Eric, what are you thinking? If it doesn't seem appropriate, forget it, Judy said. Sitting up straight again, Eric patted the folder, having already made up his mind that he would not make a bastard if he had money. Tell Mel Gibson that MGM took over the work of distribution. But on the surface, let him sign a contract with AK Film and Television. Anyway, it's still a layer of skin. It's always a bit useful to cover his ears and steal the bell, but the average fool audience is enough. As he spoke, he picked up the second notebook, and his eyes lit up again. Because this is also a very famous youth campus movie, Lindsay Lohan's masterpiece, Mean Girl. This movie directly became popular with the heroine Lindsay Lohan and became one of the reasons why fans are still willing to forgive her after she later violated the law countless times, such as fans, drugs, alcoholism, car crashes, theft, and imprisonment. It's very strange that Winona Ryder was abandoned by the market just by stealing something, and she has been silent for many years, although she has also participated in some excellent works, but she has never become popular again. Lindsay Lohan did a lot more than her and was forgiven many times, and finally this crazy girl became more and more excessive, and everyone finally gave up on her. Of course, the book, Mean Girl, must be one, but the heroine doesn't have to be Lindsay Lohan, a crazy woman. And Eric thinks that she is also average-looking. She can't be said to be ugly. Anyway, she doesn't have anything to do with beauty, in short. She doesn't have a good feeling. On the other hand, Rachel McAdams, the villain in the movie, is obviously much more beautiful, and it is not impossible for her to be the heroine. Or directly let the Olsen sisters play. One plays the heroine and the other plays the female villain. Where are the real villains in campus youth movies? They are all more popular character settings. Mean Girl is a good book. If you can buy it out, you can buy it out. If you can't, you can look at it and do the best treatment. Okay, I see. Eric continued to scroll down. Time and Space Police. Hee, it looks like garbage, and the investment is still very large, which reminds him of Will Smith's dung work, Hurricane Warriors. Speed. The theme of death at a glance. Drag racing, but racing motorcycles and furious speed cars are more reliable than this thing. Although it doesn't require a lot of special effects, it involves a lot of drag racing stunts, and the cost is not low. Discarded casually, and then Copy the Wife. A movie starring Nico in his previous life. Eric has probably seen a little, but it is really lackluster. After the closure, Nico did continue the Oscar curse, and several works starring in it failed at the box office. That is, Dogtown and Cold Mountain can still be watched. However, Dogtown is not popular. She is not the starring role in Cold Mountain, so her career development is not smooth, and the box office of this Copy Wife Eric is not clear, but it must be a loss of money. But now it's different. With Eric escorting, Nico didn't take on these movies at all. She is now preparing La Vie en Rose, and next year will naturally be Inception. I lost more than a dozen copies in a row, and I saw that a stack of scripts was about to bottom out. Judy asked helplessly, "Isn't it okay? This is what we picked out from hundreds of scripts, and there should be a market for Speed Ride." Eric shook his head. "No, motorcycles are too niche. If you want to play drag racing, you can race cars, and Fast and Furious is the object of our imitation. But we don't have the copyright for Fast and Furious. No one can compete with the car theme. 007 can play the car out, but the 007 series is not a drag racing movie. If you don't have the right one, don't shoot it, no, or you can go a little crookedly." "What?" Eric grinned unconsciously, an idea already flashing through his mind. "Now that the Fast and Furious series has just begun, I can completely play a handful of waist cuts. For example, directly put Furious 5, which is highly praised by the audience, on the big screen in advance. Change the name, change a few leading actors, and a masterpiece of changing skin will not be born. Then took the opportunity to start MGM's Furious series, and when the time came, ghostly killed Lee Kuei, and he didn't believe that he couldn't do Universal's Furious. Eric, what are you laughing at? Why are you so weird today? Nothing, something interesting came to mind. As he spoke, he threw away a notebook again, then opened the last one, and then grinned again with the mouth he had just closed. Judy, you're really my lucky star, like the name of this script, $1 Million Baby. From Murdoch, the last script in Eric's hand was none other than the famous $1 Million Baby. A pretty wonderful drama film that tells the story of a female boxer chasing her dreams. But it's not about how to succeed, but how to fail, and the plot is very touching and worth reading. Unlike The Passion of the Christ, Eric watched $1 Million Baby seriously, and many of the episodes are still memorable. Because this movie is a sports theme, it was not favored when it was released. Even with the blessing of Clint Eastwood and Hilary Swank and Morgan Freeman, but it was still not enough. When it was released, it was only a small scale. Dozens of theaters, and the box office in the first week was less than $200,000. But with its excellent quality, the movie broke out of the encirclement and finally won more than $200 million at the global box office. The high box office is still second, and the movie won 4 awards at the 77th Oscars for Best Picture, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor, and Best Director. At the same time, he was nominated for Best Actor, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Editing. All 7 are weighty awards, and none of them are technical awards, which shows that they are amazing. What's going on with this script? Salesmanship, buyout, financing, or something else? Judy walked up to Eric and looked at it. It's the script agent who is selling Paul Haggis's book. He's quite famous in the industry. However, I guess I don't have much confidence in sports themes, so the agent gave a buyout path, and $1.2 million belongs to us. Hearing this, Eric made a decisive decision. Then buy it out. This book is very exciting, but a wonderful script must be matched with a capable director. After the deal was completed, I sent Clint Eastwood an invitation to direct, and the actress was asked to find Hilary Swank, and I didn't ask for anything else. In the case of Mean Girls, the 2 heroines sent the Olsen sisters over, and they have been filming campus idol dramas for so many years, and they are very good at this kind of theme. By the way, although the actor is not very important, I sent an invitation to Chris Evans, who also started in campus youth dramas and played this kind of role. Judy took Eric's request and nodded. It's been 3 months since the Transformers were filmed. I don't know how Chris Evans' current schedule is. Let's try it first. Well, by the way, there's another thing. Evans hasn't signed with MGM. Give him a movie contract. At least he can't run away from the Transformers trilogy. Okay, I'll talk to the marketing department and the production department. After drinking the rest of the coffee, Judy put the cup down. I'll go out if nothing else. Wait, some time ago at Godot's place, I didn't say that MGM was planning to open a new show. There is a female reporter in it, which is more suitable for La Folly. You mean House of Cards? Yes. The character of Zoe is a novice reporter, and La Folly's acting skills are still relatively young, and the performance effect of his true colors will not be bad. You give her the script and let her get acquainted with the character first, and it won't be long before filming starts, and La Folly didn't take on a new play. No, the scripted roles that came to her door were not very good, and now she is mainly a part-time model, shooting commercials. That's not going back to the old ways. Eric smiled. Almost. Being idle is also idle, and shooting some advertisements can also enhance some fame. Then do as I say. The second season of The Walking Dead won't start until at least the winter, and House of Cards will be filmed first. Got it. Judy left the office. Eric was smiling. Judy deserved to have her own aura of luck and sent herself 3 good projects at once. It is conservatively estimated that when it is released next year, it will bring MGM more than $200 million in direct box office revenue, and the income from subsequent copyright-related derivatives is also considerable. Picked up the phone and called Liu, the director of the production department. The script has been sent to Kevin Spacey for half a month, and there is still no accurate letter. The call was quickly connected, and Eric asked, "Julio, hasn't Kevin Spacey responded to House of Cards yet?" In response, he said that the script was very good and he intended to star, but there were still objections to the remuneration, and we are currently negotiating with his agent. $350,000 an episode is too little, and how much does he want? Kevin Spacey's agent offered $400,000 an episode, which was the minimum they could afford to pay for an episode. Eric took a deep breath. His father said that $400,000 was the lowest price, and it seemed that the judgment was very accurate. After all, it was an Oscar winner, not so cheap. But Eric also has his own considerations, and the salary of actors in dramas like House of Cards is destined to be a hit, and the actors' salaries will definitely rise. The first season is $400,000 an episode, and the second season will at least go up a little, but the question is, what about the back? In the end, if the price rises sky high, it will be troublesome. He is a sole actor and must not be changed, so Eric still hopes to press the salary. However, depending on the situation, the pressure cannot be suppressed, and the $400,000 still has to be taken out. Okay, just give him $400,000 an episode and sign the contract as soon as possible. After making this decision, Eric was considering the heroine candidate when the phone rang again, and he glanced down at Peter Jackson. This bearded man called, and 9 times out of 10, it was a Transformers business. "Hey, Peter." Peter Jackson's hearty laughter came from there. "Eric, good news. The special effects of Transformers have been preliminarily completed. Now you can do something with it, and I've worked on a rendered version of the trailer." "Really? I think I'm going to have to pay you for the work of a great director." Eric made a joke. "Ha ha ha ha. It's mainly itchy hands, and I also want to see what your Transformers film will look like, and I have to say, it's quite impactful. The robot fight is sure to make the fans scream and go crazy, and it proves that I made the right decision." "What?" Eric asked. "Of course, it's to avoid the Autobots. If our schedules conflict, The Lord of the Rings and Transformers will definitely lose both. MGM, hurry up and release the trailer. I'm really interested in seeing the feedback from the market, especially the unlucky look of that Harvey Weinstein guy." Miramai at that time Cox has 2 films, The Furious Seas, The Polar Expedition on November 14th and Kill Bill on November 27th. Your Transformers is released on November 16th, stuck in the head of Angry Seas, far away in the front, and kicked Kill Bill in the ass. Add to that the impact of other movies, and Miramax is going to be out of luck. Peter Jackson laughed happily again as he spoke, and the reason why he was so happy was naturally because he had a grudge against Harvey Weinstein. The source of hatred was the filming of The Lord of the Rings, when Miramax Films won the film and television adaptation rights of The Lord of the Rings. Peter Jackson begged his grandfather to tell his grandmother that he had finally gotten the right to direct the film, just when he was working hard to write the script and ambitiously planned to make a trilogy. Harvey Weinstein told him, "What do you want, buddy? Do you know how much to invest in making a trilogy of epic blockbusters? Is that what an independent film company like Miramax can afford? The trilogy is a piece of, just shoot me a song, and don't want too much for the budget, preferably no more than $50 million, and the time will test your ability." Peter Jackson is so angry, this is equivalent to destroying the heavens. He approached Harvey Weinstein to argue with reason, but the initiative was not in his own hands, so he could only humbly ask, "I will shoot one by one, but I have to shoot a 4-hour version, otherwise the plot will really not be connected." Harvey Weinstein scolded him again. Want to eat fart? Brother, is the 4-hour movie for the audience? Who can hold their pee in the game, right? You dismiss this unrealistic idea and honestly limit it to 2 hours. If you can shoot, you can't shoot and get out. I have a backup director here. Peter Jackson was so angry and anxious that he could only beg his grandfather to tell his grandmother again, and finally Harvey Weinstein was relieved. Promise to give him 3 weeks. Go and invest by himself, and shoot it if he pulls it, and get out of it if he can't pull it. Fortunately, the New Line is very optimistic about this project, and the budget of nearly $300 million has been dropped. Eventually, audiences will be able to see the classic Lord of the Rings series on the big screen. And it was because of this experience that Peter Jackson and Harvey Weinstein formed a big feud. He even spoofed the other party in The Lord of the Rings 3, The Return of the King, pinching a half-orc commander in the style of Harvey Weinstein. As long as you are a Hollywood actor, you can recognize who that thing looks like at a glance. Now that the rough film of Transformers has come out, it is time for an internal test screening, not for MGM, but for the Ministry of Defense. Pressing the electric bell, Chan Xing walked in. Contact Lieutenant Colonel Freeman, set a time, and hold an internal test screening of Transformers. Also, go to Weta Digital, copy the trailer for Transformers. It's Friday. Let's release it next Monday. Good boss. Today is Friday, June 20th, and Nico's birthday has arrived. She's having a birthday party at her house, and Eric just got an invitation this morning. Needless to say, this little must have done it on purpose, and it was only at the end that she told him to see if Eric was prepared in advance. If you are prepared, it means that you have me in your heart, and if you are not prepared, then hee. Before he could get off work, Eric was already driving alone to Nico's villa in Beverly Hills. He came early, and when he arrived, he didn't find a luxury car parked here. It's just that there are paparazzi in the distance to shoot openly, but they are not allowed inside. This time Eric entered through the main entrance generously, saying that this is the second time that he has walked through the main entrance except for Oscars night. The door was open, and many servants could be seen cleaning and arranging from afar. Stepping inside, she saw that Nico was directing the maid to place custom decorations. Seeing him, Nico opened her mouth in surprise. Eric, why did you come so early? There are still 2 hours to start. Of course I'm here to see you. Is there anything I need help with? Nico smiled charmingly. How dare I bother you? The big boss. It's too messy here. Let's go. Come upstairs with me for some coffee. I still have some questions about the script of La Vie en Rose and want to consult you. No problem. The two looked serious and walked upstairs at a distance. Gently closing the door, it had not been seen for a week, and the two hungry people instantly hugged each other. After a passionate kiss, Eric's lips slowly moved across his snow-white neck. You're so beautiful today, Nico. Isn't it just today? In my heart, you are the most beautiful at every moment, especially when you are in bed. Nasty. Come on, while you haven't changed yet. Eric picked up Nico and walked to the bed. Wait, it's all people down there, and when the party is over, you can enjoy me as much as you want, okay? Eric shook his head. Ordinary people will definitely say yes, but I just don't. I'm going to say bad. Of course, I'm also very reasonable. If you promise me one condition, I'll let you go for the time being. Nico wrapped her arms around his neck and exhaled like a landy and asked, What conditions? Eric took out the gift box. Open it and take a look. Is this a birthday present from you? Nico smiled and took it, then eagerly opened it, and then saw the umbilical ring, anklet, and bracelet lying inside. Her face suddenly turned red, and her pink fist gently hit Eric's shoulder. Pervert, you just gave me this kind of thing? Eric laughed. Of course not. This is a condition you have to agree to. This is a gift. As he spoke, he pulled out another beautiful box, which contained the $1 million precious brooch. At the first sight of the brooch, Nico's eyes could no longer move, and the exquisite shape declared its value, and the sparkle of the jewel enchanted the woman. Suddenly, the beauty turned around and pressed Eric to the bed, and the surging emotions stirred up between the two. 2 hours later, Eric was standing in the living room on the first floor, and there were already a lot of people gathered around him. Hugh Jackman, Jude Law, Julianne Moore, Renée Zellweger, Meryl Streep, Robbie Williams, Naomi Watts, Natalie Portman, Russell Crowe, and many more. It's like a Vanity Fair party, and in addition to these acquaintances, there are many people Eric can't name. Amid the applause and laughter of the crowd, Nico walked down the stairs in a white gauze dress, the orchid brooch hanging from her chest. "My friends, welcome to my birthday party. Let's have fun today and not get drunk." "Oh!" The crowd burst into cheers, the music played, and the party vibe. Then Robbie Williams stepped up and sang as a professional singer, which drew another round of applause. Everyone knows each other in private, and there is no need to maintain an image in front of friends, and they each play treasures and dedicate their talents. Nico was surrounded by a group of sisters, and a group of women laughed from time to time. Eric touched his somewhat shriveled stomach. Just upstairs, the two of them still couldn't help but work hard, and their physical strength was exhausted. He looked at Uncle Wolf beside him. "Jack, I need to eat something. How about a piece of Filipino-style barbecue?" Hugh Jackman looked at his abdomen with some embarrassment and said hesitantly, "Forget it. I want to maintain my body, and I can't touch food that is too high in calories." "It's okay to eat a little once in a while. You see, everyone is eating. Don't you feel lonely?" Eric persuaded, just as men like to persuade people who can't drink to drink. Uncle Wolf swallowed his saliva, and his taste buds were also struggling. "Perhaps. It's not bad to have a piece." "That's right. Being an actor is like an ascetic, aren't you in pain?" Pulling Hugh Jackman to the table, ignoring his request to eat only one piece, he picked up a plate and gave him a bunch of meat and desserts and stuffed him with a glass of champagne. "Eat, eat, eat, eat a piece, eat a plate, let go of your psychological pressure." Saying that, Eric began to feast, and seeing that he ate so well, Uncle Wolf simply let go, picked up a piece of dessert and put it in his mouth. "OMG. It's the smell of God," he said, with a look of satisfaction. While the two of them were eating meat and drinking a large glass, a man was standing next to Eric at some point. The man looks to be around 30 years old, with short hair and glasses, and looks like a scholar. "Would you like a drink?" asked Eric casually. The man took the champagne and smiled, took the initiative to reach out and said, "Hello, Eric. James Murdoch. It's nice to meet you." Beverly Hills, Nicole Kidman's birthday party. Eric looked at the man in front of him, stretched out his hand and shook it gently, and the two looked at each other and smiled. "Eric Cooper, hello, James." The other party's surname is Murdoch, and when he appears on this occasion, it is no surprise that the other party must be the son of the media tycoon Rupert Murdoch. Needless to say, there are few people in the world who don't know his wealth and power, and his wife Deng Wendy is also very famous. With News Corp and 20th Century Fox Pictures in its hands, News Corporation is home to some of the most important media mouthpieces in countries such as Australia, the United States, and the United Kingdom. 20th Century Fox Films includes Fox Films, Fox Searchlight, Fox Television Network, Fox Broadcasting Network, etc. Rupert Murdoch is not only able to call the wind and rain in the entertainment industry, but also has a great influence in the political circle. That influence will last for at least another 20 years before it wanes, as the impact of the internet has severely disrupted News Corp's newspaper business. 20th Century Fox Pictures was acquired by Disney in 2019 for a staggering price of $71.3 billion, becoming the largest film and television acquisition after the millennium. Since then, Hollywood has officially entered the 5 major eras, leaving only Disney, Warner, Universal, Sony, and Paramount. Although it is said that the general trend of the world is that it must be divided for a long time, and it must be divided for a long time, before Disney announced the acquisition of 20th Century Fox, most people still thought that Paramount, the weakest, should be the first to be acquired, but they didn't expect it to be Fox. But that's more than a decade later, and now Mickey Mouse hasn't swelled to such an extent, and News Corp and Fox are still able to call the wind and rain, at least much better than MGM. The two clinked glasses, and James Murdoch said, "Introduce yourself first. Eric, you should be able to guess my identity, but he is not familiar with me. My father is Rupert Murdoch, as you think of him, and I also work for News Corporation and am currently the chairman of Star TV Asia."
Ah?
Star TV is opened by your family. Eric was a little surprised. Very for a post-90s generation, Star TV can be said to have accompanied his childhood, and the animation that was not introduced in the mainland relied on Star TV to broadcast it. For example, Inuyasha, Naruto, Fruit Basket, Magic Milu Milu, Detective Conan, Variety's Sakura Magic Card, and so on. It was quite a childhood filter, but I didn't expect it to be affiliated with News Corp. James Murdoch smiled slightly. It's too absolute to say this. Star TV is a subsidiary of News Corporation. It belongs to all shareholders, and I just manage it. In contrast, MGM is better off that you alone have the final say, and this lion is your personal property. Eric waved his hand. What's the use of belonging to me alone? MGM owes billions of foreign debts, and I wake up every day with a big head, and I don't know when it will be taken away by the bank. You're too humble, Eric. MGM is developing very well right now, since you became the owner, and it's been 10 months now. I've done the math. All investments are profitable, and although they are mostly at a small cost, the accuracy rate is simply terrible. It's a testament to the fact that you have a terrifying sense of the market, and you're able to analyze exactly what the audience wants to see, which is a very rare and enviable ability. If you are an American who has grown up in tradition, you will definitely boast that it is indeed your own credit at this time. But Eric felt that the guy in front of him was a bit unkind, so he still hid his weakness and observed what he wanted to do first. He laughed. It's not my credit. It's the result of MGM's overall decision-making. I'm just an executor. Anyway, MGM is gaining momentum, and a lot of people are waiting for it to relist. Is there a sure time? The exact timing is to be determined, but the relisting is certain. The stock is public. Anyone can buy it if they want, and if I don't have the money on hand, I would still like to buy News Corp and Fox shares. Saying that, Eric looked at Uncle Wolf next to him. Jack, you can also buy some when the time comes. A good investment is more profitable than a good movie. Hugh Jackman listened for a while and could already feel that there was something wrong with the conversation between the two. He was a smart man, and things between the big guys should not be muddy. Eric, thank you for the suggestion. I'll think about it. There's a friend over there. I'll go over and say hello. You guys talk. After saying that, he was decisively moistened. James Murdoch made a gesture of please. This location is not very convenient. How about going over there to talk? The two walked to the corner of the living room. There was no one here, and it was much quieter. James, what do you want to talk about? It's not like you're trying to buy MGM, is it? Said Eric jokingly. Of course not. Although the career is very important, the meal must also be eaten one bite at a time, and my ambition has not swelled to this extent. But I heard the news that Facebook, which has been popular in the United States recently, seems to be inextricably linked to MGM, right? Eric didn't answer directly and said lightly, "You go on." Facebook is great, and the emergence of this kind of social media is disruptive and will change the way people interact. I think it has a lot of potential, and now it's mainly spreading in the US universities. But in the near future, Facebook will definitely cover the whole of the US. Imagine maybe a year from now, half of Americans will be using Facebook, and then it will gradually spread to Canada, Mexico, Europe. Over the course of a year, These countries were gradually conquered, followed by Asia and South America. Maybe 5 years from now, maybe longer, maybe shorter, Facebook's user reach will be able to envelop the whole world. At that point, it will not only be the first social media in history, it will be the largest in the world. You and I know very well what the biggest means. It represents a monopoly, and a monopoly symbolizes profit, far more than all profits. Seeing the way James Murdoch said the sky, Eric was sure that people must have decided that he was the actual controller behind Facebook, and there was no need to deny it. James, what you said is very good, and I agree with the vision of the future. So, what do you want to do? James Murdoch said, win-win cooperation. Cooperation, James, cooperation is about sincerity, and I need to see your sincerity. Eric said, of course I have sincerity. First of all, financial support. Like you said, MGM's current development momentum is really good, but it is also a fact that the debt is high. As Facebook grows, it's only going to get more and more working capital, and you have to admit that. And at least until the user base stabilizes, it will be difficult for Facebook to start making a profit. It will be in a state of loss for a long time, and it will need to be transfused constantly. So the first condition I gave was financial support, based on Facebook's registered users, and for every 1 million registered users, News Corp was willing to invest $5 million a year in operating funds. And this number is floating, and it will rise to 6 million, 7 million, 8 million in the future as the market price fluctuates. Eric smiled slightly. This price is indeed very good. If you don't consider the extension of the business, it is actually profitable in terms of operation alone. Well, yes, please move on to the second condition. The second is naturally resource support, including connections and public opinion, which is what News Corporation is best at. I've noticed that Facebook hasn't been online for a long time, but some media outlets are already saying bad things about it. And have you watched that CBS talk show? And once we have the support of News Corporation, Facebook doesn't have to worry about public opinion. We are the most authoritative news media. In the future, News Corporation can also provide strong support when expanding its business in Europe, Australia, and even Asia, at least to minimize the resistance that Facebook will encounter. Eric, I'm talking in a very general way, but you should be able to feel the role of News Corporation. Think about it. Eric nodded. James, I want to ask a question. Did you find me this time? Is it your personal behavior, or is it on behalf of your father? Maybe he felt that Eric couldn't refuse himself, or maybe he thought that he surpassed Eric in terms of status and power, and James Murdoch didn't hide it. For the time being, it was my personal act, he said, but I am confident that I will convince my father to agree to this. It's been 3 years since I started working at Asia Star TV in 2000, and at the beginning of my tenure, the station had accumulated losses of $650 million. It took me 3 years to bring it back to life, breaking into the Chinese and Indian markets in one fell swoop and helping the company turn a profit. Now that I'm leaving Star TV, my father promised me almost every job at News Corporation or Fox. I was going to go to Sky as a CEO, but that's when Facebook came along and I found this pearl. Judging by how popular it is, the potential of social media is huge, so this area will be my new target. I'm not afraid to tell you that if we work together, it's going to be a win-win situation. Or if News Corp launches its own social network, we're going to be a competitor. Eric's eyes lit up. Are you threatening me? Eric, this is not a threat, but a benign persuasion, and it is impossible to eat alone in this world. Do you know how much time MGM spent behind the scenes to develop Facebook? When News Corporation develops its own software, how much time will the market give you? Eric, you're talking about redevelopment, but what if I already have a finished product in my hands? What? How could you have that? Eric was a little surprised, and for a moment he thought of words such as code leak and ghost. Don't be so surprised. I didn't do anything illegal. Someone sold it to me. It's called my space. If you agree to work together, We'll work together to create the world's strongest social network, and if you don't, MySpace will immediately compete with Facebook. MGM can launch celebrity publicity. Fox can do it. We have the resources that MGM has, and we also have the resources that MGM doesn't. I don't want it to end up being a lose-lose situation, Eric, and I hope you understand that. After James Murdoch finished speaking, he looked straight over, and Eric understood where the other party's real confidence came from. If you can't get it, you will destroy you with similarities. This kind of method is not only good at penguins, but also good at capital groups all over the world. Eric narrowed his eyes. James, tell me what you want. James Murdoch opened his 5 fingers. 50% of Facebook's shares, of course. The right to operate is still yours. I have the right to advise, and you are still the actual controller of Facebook. Hearing the other party's request, Eric almost laughed angrily. Janima dares to open his mouth, and opening his mouth is half of the equity. Why don't you go to heaven? If it was 10% or no more than 20%, Eric would still seriously consider it, but 50% is complete. If you don't participate in the operation, who will believe this? At most, he will be honest for a while, and after he has gained a firm foothold, he will definitely try his best to occupy a dominant position, and Facebook will inevitably usher in a tragic infighting. Drinking the wine in one gulp, Eric said coldly, "It seems that you are not sincere at all." Seeing that Eric was leaving, James Murdoch hurriedly said, "Wait, Eric, this is just my preliminary idea. The specific way of cooperation, we can discuss it again." "I don't think that's going to have to be. There's no way you're going to get that number down to 10%, just like I can't take half of News Corp and Fox from you. Do you want a share swap?" "That's right. This is the best way to cooperate. I don't need your money. Your resources may be useful, but what if you don't?" Eric Cooper, share swaps are not possible, especially since Facebook is just a nascent company, and it seems that you have to choose the path of competition. James Murdoch's voice also cooled. Eric didn't move, his head glancing back at him, a bit of a hawkish look. I don't know why, being looked at like this, James Murdoch suddenly felt a little uncomfortable. Just then, Nico walked over, and she didn't notice the problem. "Why are you two here?" "Eric, let me introduce you, this is." "No, I've already talked to Mr. Murdoch." "Yes, you've already met, and that's great, James, I've always been." "I'm sorry, Nicole. The company is in a bit of a hurry. I'm going back to deal with it. I wish you a happy birthday, and I'll contact you when I'm free." Looking at the back of James Murdoch leaving, Nico looked at Eric blankly. Late at night, the bedroom rings with a crisp silver bell. Nico's face was red, and she couldn't figure an inch. Just with a bracelet and anklet, the beautiful umbilical ring hanging on her lower abdomen, and the concentric knot necklace that Eric gave her when he returned from Huaxia. Her body dances to the song, and the background music is none other than her famous Moulin Rouge. In the dim and ambiguous light, the trinkets sparkle with the ringing of the bells. Delicate dance moves are drawn on her smooth body, looming and beautiful. Suddenly, Nico walked up to Eric with a dance step, her slender thighs sticking out, her red nail-polished toes lightly touching Eric's chin. Eric's gaze fell on the opening and closing of his legs, which were already slightly wet. Nico's eyes were like silk, and her breath was like an orchid. "My love, would you like to dance with me?" Eric gave her a gentle kiss on the instep of her foot, grabbed her thigh with one hand, and jerked to her feet, the other already encircling Nico's waist. His eyes flashed in the dim light, filled with desire and strength. "As you wish, my beauty, let's dance that classic tango together." Nico's fingers touched the back of her head, as if the Milky Way had fallen for 9 days, and her long waterfall-like hair was scattered. At the same time, the opera on the gramophone played the classic El Tango de Roxanne. "Rosanna, why is my heart crying? Rosanna, I feel like I don't have any strength in my body." Rosanna, you can leave me. But don't be pretentious. Accompanied by passionate singing, Eric and Nico danced the famous tango. It is as if she is back in Moulin Rouge. Her eyes are sharp and melancholy, and her movements are soft and powerful. One of her legs was hooked around Eric's waist, her hands brushing his chest and then digging into his shirt, her arms swimming like snakes. Eric felt the softness and flexibility of the surface of his skin squirm, and the white shirt he was wearing was gone. Her lips were kissed on Nico's neck, and the woman raised her head like a beautiful swan. On the phonograph, the majestic opera becomes even more exciting. Rosanna, please believe in my sincerity. When I say I love you, even if I suffer from all the wind and frost, I love you to death. Until the Grim Reaper. Passionate kisses parted, confused footsteps trampled. Nico leaned her back against Eric, her delicate skin rubbing against her solid chest. Eric's hands roamed over her, sometimes over the mountains, sometimes over the deep hills. The feeling of intoxication is accompanied by the music steaming, as if the air is scattered with aphrodisiac messages. "Oh," is a whisper, just like the silence of her love in the movie. Nico lifted one leg slightly, tilted her head back to look at Eric's chin, and put her hands around his waist, and the two bodies inadvertently intertwined the most beautiful posture. Her jewel-like eyes seemed to snatch Eric's heart away. In the early morning, Eric gently played with the trinkets on Nico's navel, while the other party lay on top of him lazily like a kitten. Slowly opening his eyes, Eric kissed her forehead. "You woke up a little early today, dear." Yawning, Nico complained, "If you hadn't touched me, I could have slept longer." Looking down at the kiss marks on her body, she pointed to her neck. "Is there any here?" "Well, a little, but you can say that you were scratched by a cat. Don't you have a cat named Katie at home?" "Can a cat scratch be the same as a kiss mark?" "You don't know how sharp the eyes of those paparazzi are. It seems that I need to hide at home. By the way, what's going on with you and James Murdoch? I felt a little unpleasant between you last night." Eric explained the matter briefly, and Nico couldn't help but say angrily, "This guy is too much, 50% equity, and his appetite is also big." "Nico, are you familiar with James Murdoch?" Nico shook her head slightly. "It's not familiar, it's just acquaintance. In fact, I have a better relationship with his sister Elizabeth Murdoch and brother Lachlan Murdoch, and I didn't expect him to come to the party." "And what kind of person is this James? What kind of personality is it? What is his ability? Do you know?" Nico thought for a moment. "I probably know. Elizabeth once complained to me about her two younger brothers, all three of whom were born to Murdoch's second wife, Anna. The older brother Lachlan was more conservative, and the younger brother James was more aggressive, you know? He turned down journalism related to the family business and chose film history at Harvard. But in order to show off his personality ability, he left his father's control, and he dropped out of Harvard to engage in hip-hop music. Can you imagine how weird this is?" Hearing hip-hop, Eric sneered. He was already indifferent to hip-hop, and EMIA made him hate this genre even more. Later, his hip-hop company was bought by his father Murdoch, and James returned to work in the group, which shows that he did not prove anything, only that he was a rebellious child. "So I am not surprised that he dared to ask you to directly open up half of the equity. This person is this kind of character. Isn't this James the president of Asia Star TV? I heard that if Star TV is made impressive, his ability should not be weak." Eric said. "Then, I don't know, I've heard of it, but everyone knows about the disharmony within the Murdoch family. This old man is married for the third time, and his current wife, Wendy Deng, has a very bad relationship with Anna's 3 children. It's no wonder that there is a power struggle within the group and the distribution of Murdoch's property," said Eric. "Yes, and even the relationship between the 3 sisters is actually not harmonious, and the eldest brother Lachlan is gone. Murdoch's path was to develop the newspaper news business with determination. And this James, his personality has decided that he will not like the newspaper business, so he wants the group to focus on the film and entertainment business. Eric, I think it's most likely James Murdoch's decision to compete with you in the ring or something like that, and the old Murdoch may not approve of him. Eric rolled over and lay on the bed, and Nico straddled his waist and rubbed her palms on the back of her shoulders, knowing that she was struggling. My dear, I don't need to make peace with it. Competition is always not a good thing, and the two movies know how to avoid each other. The big hand gently roamed over the smooth skin, enjoying the massage of the Oscar-winning actress, and Eric opened his skin comfortably. No, you don't want to get involved. He can come whenever he wants, even if he adds his dad Murdoch. I don't lack funds, at least for now. It is not a problem to support Facebook's operation, although the words of public opinion will have a certain influence on the public. But the root of the influence is the quality of Facebook itself. As long as Facebook itself does not have problems and always maintains an advantage, the people will know how to choose. It's human nature to strive for excellence, and no one likes to use bad ones if there's good, just like everyone likes to watch good movies. And what does Sharknado say? Asked Nico with a chuckle. Don't interrupt. Be careful, I spank your ass. Actually, the only thing I'm worried about is that he's stumbling on politics, and if some departments are mobilized to use their power to restrict Facebook, it will be a problem. Anyway, let's take one step at a time. Normal business competition. I can crush him to death. It's Monday, and the box office results for the third week of Human Eradication Plan have been released. Compared to the second week, the box office continued to fall by 48%, getting $14 million, and the total North American box office came to $86 million. According to this trend, another week of large-scale reaction, and then half of the movie theaters will be painted, and the remaining 800 or 900 movie theaters will continue to show them. By the end of the fifth week, when the large-scale screenings are over, the box office potential will almost be exhausted. At that time, Pirates of the Caribbean was also going to land in the summer file. North America is still led by Finding Nemo. The clownfish Nemo continued to score $49 million in the second week after winning $65 million in the first week. The box office downward trend is only 25%, which is far lower than the halving of Ordinary Movies, which shows the excellence of excellent G-rated cartoons. As a publishing company, Mickey Mouse is going to make a big profit this time. In terms of the global box office, Human Eradication Project has opened in Spain, Russia, Switzerland, and other European countries, and India has also been released, and now only Japan has a relatively large overseas box office. Waiting. The global box office also increased by $8.3 million, bringing the total overseas box office to $31 million, and the cumulative global box office is now $117 million. For this kind of low-budget thriller movie, it is already quite an excellent achievement. In the MGM building, Eric personally stood in the lobby on the first floor, this time to greet guests from the Department of Defense. At that time, it only cost $10 million to obtain the cooperation permission of the Ministry of Defense, and today is the time to inspect the goods. The inspector must be served, otherwise the original schedule may have to be changed. As a Humvee approached the building, 3 men in military uniforms got out of the car, and of the 3, Eric knew only Lieutenant Colonel Freeman. Smiling and shaking hands, Lieutenant Colonel Freeman introduced the two sides. Eric, this is Major General Geinholz, Deputy Chief of Staff for Logistics Engineering and Defense, and this is Colonel Angela Winchester, Chief of Staff of the Department of Intelligence Reconnaissance and Surveillance. Eric shook hands with the two, the former with rough palms and should have experienced military experience. The latter's palms are relatively delicate, and I am afraid that he was promoted from a civilian position. According to what Lieutenant Colonel Freeman said at the beginning, the average person in the U.S. military is a colonel at the end, and almost all of them have complex relationships behind them, and the two people in front of them should also be of this type. invited the three of them to the company's internal theater, where Dad waited and everyone greeted for a while. "Mr. Cooper, don't waste time. Hurry up and get started. I have something to attend to at noon." Eric nodded. "Okay." On the big screen, the movie officially began, and there was no title, and it went directly to the feature film. The movie is still a rudimentary version. The special effects are incomplete, the Transformers are not vivid, and some places seem more blurry. During the screening, Eric looked at the Ministry of Defense from time to time, only to see the other party's expression frowning and nodding for a while, which made people puzzled. 2 hours later, as the city battle ended, Megatron was killed, and the Decepticons fled with their lives. "All right, that's all." Major General Gene Holtz spoke. Eric gestured. The big screen turned off, and the lights came back on. "Major General Holtz, what is your opinion? Let's go to the conference room," Dad suggested. Looking at the time, Major General Holtz wanted to talk on the spot, but Eric immediately glanced at him. Next to him, Lieutenant Colonel Freeman opened his mouth to persuade. "General, the conference room is quiet and crowded, and it is not bad to change the environment after watching the explosion for a long time." Hearing the quiet words of the few people, Major General Holtz looked at Lieutenant Colonel Freeman meaningfully. "Okay, let's go to the conference room." In the conference room, irrelevant people were cleared out, and it was a closed-door meeting. It didn't take long, and half an hour later, a group of people came out of the conference room laughing. Major General Holtz said, "Eric, although I don't know how to make movies, I also know that it is rare for a director as young as you to be. Transformers is a very good shot, especially showing the determination and courage of our army to defy strong enemies, defend the people, and defend the country. Ungra, when you go back, make a report to the Ministry of Defense, report the results of what we just talked about, and in principle express satisfaction with the quality of the film." "Okay, it's not too early. I have to rush back for a meeting." Dad immediately took the other party's hand. "Major General Holtz, it's noon soon, and you can't go hungry for a meeting. I've got lunch ready. MGM has a Transformers sequel in the future, and I need your help." "Major General." Holtz pretended to be reserved for a moment, and then stayed behind at the behest of Lieutenant Colonel Freeman to have a fart meeting, which was just an excuse. Even if it was a real meeting, it would still be held without him, but now there are real benefits to take, and it is too easy to distinguish which is more important than the other. Moments later, the two cars left the MGM building back and forth. By the time the Ministry of Defense was sent away, it was already past 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Eric and his dad were both drunk. Damn, this group of troops came out really fiercely, similar to the Huaxia side, and the bigger the rank, the greater the amount of alcohol. At first, everyone was a little restrained, but when the wine girl came up, 3 or 2 glasses of belly, and the demons danced wildly. It'd be 11:12, it's actually only 2 o'clock after. A meal, and everyone knows what to do in the next 2 hours. In the end, the 3 of them ate and drank well, and each took a sum of money and left. As for Eric, he disdains to play with these high-class prostitutes, and the women around him are of high quality, so he naturally looks down on those vulgar fans. Beverly Hills, Cooper's house. Eric opened his eyes from the bed, then covered his eyes with his hands. The glare of the lights on the ceiling made him uncomfortable. I forgot to turn off the lights and fell asleep. I opened the curtain and looked out the window. The sky was still dark, and it was only the middle of the night. Taking out a bottle of mineral water from the refrigerator and drinking it, Eric's face suddenly changed, as if he remembered something. "Oh no, I wanted to talk to Theron on the phone before I fell asleep, but what did I say? I can't remember at all." Rubbing his hole, Eric shook his head vigorously, but still vaguely remembered calling Theron when he got home and saying a lot of it, but the content was as blurry as a fragment. Hurriedly returned to the bedroom, picked up the phone and looked at the call log. Sure enough, the first one was Charlize Theron. Smack. Eric slapped him on the head. This is terrible. A man is drunk and beats a woman, and he is still a beautiful woman who has been coveted for a long time. Then what will be said? There is a high probability that it can be imagined. Maybe even the most basic demeanor has been lost, and he has played a hooligan directly on the phone. It's over. The image that I have built up so hard is all over now. Eric regretted it in his heart. He really shouldn't have drunk this drink. He made a big mistake. He hesitated with his phone, wanting to send a text message to apologize, or at least to test the other party's attitude so that he could judge whether he had said something excessive. But when I thought about it, it was the middle of the night, and it was somewhat inappropriate, so I couldn't help but put the phone down again. He went to the bathroom and took a shower, pouring cold water over his head, which made Eric even more unable to sleep. Simply open your laptop and start reading the news. In the Google Entertainment section, the headline at a glance was that Ben Affleck was photographed visiting a nightclub, and Big Ben and his girlfriend Jennifer Lopez had a conflict again, and the wedding of the two was unsurprisingly postponed again. With Ben Affleck's amorous personality, this news is true 9 times out of 10. However, this pair has been procrastinating since the relationship was exposed last year. From the beginning of the November engagement to the present has not yet been confirmed, and everyone is tired of waiting for melons. During this period, Eric saw the two of them at least 10 times in the Lace News, and he always wanted to laugh at the future Daredevil and Batman from the bottom of his heart. Men, no, it's the same for women. Especially people in the entertainment industry, you must not rush to get married before you have had enough. Don't choose to compromise because of the pressure of public opinion, the pressure of your family, or the pressure of the other party, because there are limits to compromise. What's more, there are many temptations in this circle. Cats don't steal fishy, but as long as the cat is good enough, the fish will take the initiative to take the bait, and sooner or later there will be times when you can't help it. Rather than making a fuss later because of emotional and marital problems, it is better to wait until you are completely relieved before getting married. But when it's over, don't mess around and be a good husband and father with peace of mind. That's the principle that Eric follows. As for when he's had enough of it and when he's going to be completely relentless, it's going to be a long journey at his current age. Not even having the desire to open the news, Eric looked down and saw news related to him. The trailer for Transformers was released. Click on the link to enter. I'm afraid no one would have thought that the trailer was cut out by Peter Jackson. Compared to the rough version of the internal review, this more-than-minute video is a fully edited version of the special effects. It's just the beginning, the electromechanical planetary appearance of Cybertron in the far reaches of space, and under the narrator's magnificent commentary, Eric feels guilty. And when the Autobots and Decepticons appeared, the full special effects were presented in front of his eyes. Sure enough, as expected, it has both metallic and agileness, which is not much different from the picture in memory. Even if there is a gap, it is not too big, after all. Transformers uses the highest technology in the current film industry. With the words 11.16 strong landing, the trailer of more than a minute ends. The cut is good, the soundtrack is very good. The close-up of the fierce battle and the explosion of metal parts can make the adrenaline rush of people. Eric pulled the mouse down, and the comment section was almost all positive reviews. Words such as surprised, shocked, magical, and unexpected appear the most often. Subsequently, Eric landed on the world's largest Transformers fan forum. Sure enough, it was the trailer that was put on top. A netizen with the nickname Optimus Prime's Arms commented, "I didn't expect much when this trailer was announced, but when I clicked on it, I realized I was wrong. It was the best movie trailer I've seen this year." Megatron's eyes? Agree with Upstairs, this trailer is really a bunker, and now I'm looking forward to the movie. I really hope the time will fast forward to November. Red Spider. Oh my god, Can anyone tell me if the robots in here are real or special effects? They look so textured. I just watched The Matrix 2 a few months ago, and I think the special effects of Transformers are even better than The Matrix 2. I'm going to drive Hercules. This shows that MGM did not deceive everyone. It said that the investment will not be less than $150 million, and it seems that the money is really spent. What is presented in the trailer is obviously just some fragments of the plot, so expand the clips. I predict that the combat part of the movie will not be less than 40 minutes, and some of them are cool. Pioneer of the Emperor of the Universe. Haven't you considered a situation? What if the trailer is already the essence of the movie, and the rest is a lump of poop? Star Wars Prequel 2, Attack of the Clones. I'm a Jack. The upstairs is too subjective. Star Wars prequels 1 and 2 are obviously very well shot, although the lines are not Lucas's strong point, but its scenes are great. Master Titanium came. Are you kidding? I admit that Lucas created Star Wars, but his prequel 2 part also ruined Star Wars, and he even has to make a third part, get rid of Lucas's abdication. Fox quickly changed the director. Bumblebee is so cute. Don't crook the building. This is the forum for Transformers. Get out of the Star Wars. The ambulance's horn. Star Wars is the first in the world. I just want to brush Star Wars, although Transformers are not bad, but they are far from Star Wars. Bumblebee. It's so cute. I suspect that you are a spy. Everyone will go with me to the Star Wars zone to brush Transformers. After watching it for a while, Eric was speechless, and sure enough, no matter what the topic is, it will eventually turn into tearing. I logged on to Facebook again and looked at it, and the official account of MGM and the promotional account of Transformers have already released relevant news and attached links. Celebrities who have a good relationship with Eric have also joined the ranks of publicity. The comments here are much more harmonious. Almost all of them praise the trailer for being wonderful and say that you must go to the cinema to see it. Browsing around the main pages of some celebrities, he found that some of them are still quite active. For example, every day or two, my buckle will share something, sometimes a photo, sometimes a mood, sometimes a songbook or a charity. There are also Will Smith, Orlando Bloom, Natalie Portman, etc., who often share some life experiences or photos on the set. However, in general, there are still few public figures in the music world, reality shows, business circles, and political circles. After thinking about it, James Murdoch estimated that it would not be long before he started, and he had to speed up the pace of absorbing new users and expand the basic market. I took out my phone and edited a text message and sent it to Fitzhatenberg. Ask him to hold a celebrity follower ranking event after the 1-month period of his Facebook landing expires. From the first place down, if there are enough, it will be ranked the 100th, and if there are not enough, there will be as many as possible. This is the first installment and will be reevaluated every month thereafter. This method is very brainless and simple. If fans find that their idol ranking is very low, they will naturally call friends to come to support. On the one hand, it can effectively expand the user base, and at the same time, it will also increase the exposure of these stars. At this stage, Facebook's functionality is not perfect enough, and users may feel less fresh after a few days of playing. Therefore, the star effect is still an important benchmark and attraction, and after a year and a half of development, it can gradually stabilize and reduce the star effect and turn to improve the general user experience. After sending a text message, regardless of whether it will disturb Fitzhatenberg's rest, Lao Tzu will give you such a high salary, even if you're on call 24 hours a day. Eric burrowed back into bed and fell back asleep. At the same time, also in Beverly Hills, Harvey Weinstein's mansion, this half-orc couldn't sleep irritably. He drank his wine and walked around the living room with his phone in hand. Although the air conditioner was turned on to the maximum, his fat body still made him sweat constantly. On the phone, his brother Bob Weinstein persuaded, "Harvey, I think it's better to change gears. The current situation is very unfavorable for us. You also saw the trailer released by MGM. It was unexpectedly wonderful. Eric Cooper's stinky boy is really not a straw bag. We underestimate him. Harvey Weinstein gulped down half a glass of wine, dropped the quilt on the table, and after rolling a few times, a crackling sound sounded in the air. Let me change gears? This can't be. Especially since the opponent is still the sick lion at MGM, who is dying, and we are in the middle of the day. Chicago was forced to draw early because of this damn father and son, and we didn't get the best picture. Have you forgotten how much money we spent? A whole $12 million, and in the end we only took one Best Supporting Actress, who would be a rarity for this kind of garbage award. After the Oscars, the whole of Hollywood was laughing at us. Bob, don't forget that we set the schedule first, and it was the damn father and son who broke the rules. Hearing his brother's roar, Bob Weinstein could only continue to persuade, Harvey, I've already asked someone from Weta Digital, and this Transformers is quite complete, and it doesn't look like a novice director's work at all. Maybe as the little guy said in front of the media, he wants $700 million at the box office, and that's not just a lie. Really, Harvey, let's change the schedule. At least we have to adjust the schedule of Clash of the Furious Seas. Polar Expedition, November 14th, is only 2 days away from Transformers, which is no different from a head-to-head confrontation. Are you really naive to think that a 19th century naval fleet story can appeal more to viewers than an Autobot from Cybertron? But don't forget, we still have Russell Crowe. We have Paul Bettany, and our screenwriter is Peter Brown, who won the Golden Globe and the Palme d'Or and made Dead Poets Society and Truman's World. Will, both in front of the stage and behind the scenes, we're winning. Harvey Weinstein said angrily. But none of them can compare to a living Optimus Prime in front of the audience. Bob Weinstein also angrily scolded his brother. Harvey, anyway, we must change gears. The investment in Angry Seas, Polar Expedition, is the same as Transformers, $150 million US. If the box office fails, we will lose miserably. This year's schedule has been negotiated with several major companies, and next year's good schedule should be given to the other party. Now you're going to change gears. I ask you where to change to? Unless you change to 2005, or do you want to compete with Spider-Man 2, Shrek 2, Harry Potter 3, Van Helsing, and The Day After Tomorrow next year? Do you have a soft persimmon in these opponents? Bob, it's not that I have to insist, but time won't give us this opportunity, or let the film stay in a warehouse for 2 years. But in 2005, can you guarantee that there will be no Transformers 2, Van Helsing 2, Spy 3? Was angrily scolded by his own brother, and Bob Weinstein was speechless for a moment. At this time, the two brothers were not in a state where conflicts broke out 10 years later. It is said that it was his younger brother Bob who later pulled Harvey Weinstein off the horse, and at that time the infighting between the two brothers had reached the point of life and death. Although there are contradictions at this time, for example, Bob has persuaded Harvey to coerce sleeping actresses, but it has no effect at all. But their relationship is generally relatively harmonious. But if I don't change gears, I'm worried about. There's nothing to worry about. When have our two brothers ever lost a battle, it will be the same this time, let alone a 20-year-old ghost. We need to increase our propaganda efforts, and when necessary, we must spread some black material out, and we can't let others laugh at the Weinstein brothers for being afraid of a fledgling hairy boy. Hanging up the phone, Harvey Weinstein still strongly demanded that he not change gears, that is, to touch him head-on. Now, some people have given him the name of the Emperor of Hollywood movies. How could the Emperor be afraid? Only others are afraid of the Emperor. Oops. Ambulance. I need an ambulance.